Howdy, howdy, howdy. My name is Anashi Sasuke. Welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. The last episode was largely uncomfortable, and in this episode, we're going to be checking out Pesterbot, Curiously Buoyant Amphibian, The Utter West, Laser Shark Fetuses, and Preparation. Not H, though, just Preparation. So, what's the Pesterbot? It claims to be safe. SCP-1370 is locked in a fireproof glass display case stored in Gallery 27. If the case becomes damaged by external circumstance, any container with dimensions of at least 1 inch 25 by 0.75 by 0.50 meters, okay, not inch, meters, will suffice as a replacement until a new display case is available. The Ethics Committee recommends that any long-term storage case contain enough space for 1370 to move freely. Level 2 personnel and higher may remove 1370 from its case at their discretion, but will face disciplinary action for failing to secure it properly afterwards. Description: SCP-1370 is a self-aware artificial being constructed from various electrical devices and tools. It stands approximately 1 meter in height and is capable of moving its articulated joints despite the lack of any power source or motors. 1370 communicates in a monotone voice via a speaker mounted in its chest. Is there going to be an interview or just that's it? Its head is a voltmeter soldered upside down to a neck joint, giving the appearance of a friendly smile but containing no active sensory devices. However, it will react to visual and audible stimuli, and its ability to do so is hampered when the head is covered or otherwise restrained. Its design appears to give more importance to aesthetic concern rather than function, as evidenced by a poor center of gravity that hampers its ability to balance and walk. It is therefore believed that 1370 was created as an art object and later imbued with anomalous properties rather than designed with those in mind. It can currently speak fluid American English, French, and Latin, and is capable of learning new languages. Other facets of its intellectual capacity have not been clearly outlined, as 1370 is invariably hostile in all interactions with any being or object it interprets to be sapient. This includes, but is not limited to, animals, Foundation personnel, civilians, audiovisual equipment, and security cameras. If 1370 encounters an object it believes to be sapient, it will attempt to engage the object in combat while introducing itself with a variety of elaborate titles, which appear to be selected at random. Examples include Doombot 2000, Robo-Lord the Destructor, Prime Minister Sinister, and Darthclaw Killflex. It will often include variations to these titles based on responses it receives from personnel. Foundation staff has successfully introduced Patheticon, the Garglemost, and Pesterbot to its lexicon. Addendum: many tests on 1370's combat prowess have been run, each confirming that it lacks the physical aptitude to cause damage to any living being. Test 8239 exposed it to a common houseplant with a speaker hidden in the plant's pot. After it was provoked verbally, it attempted to fold and twist the leaves of the plant within its grasp before incapacitating itself. See the log that follows. Researchers L. Allens and T. Balsoom carry the case into the testing chamber. The case is set down 1 meter from the potted philodendron fitted with a small speaker. Release me, insects. I am Doom Master 1370, Master of all Doom. I shall be the herald of your destruction. Researchers leave the testing chamber and the case is opened remotely. Although no security risk is determined, the test requires 1370 to focus on the plant rather than nearby personnel. Observations are made via an opaque glass window to prevent 1370 from attacking its own reflection. At last, I am unleashed upon this earth so deserving of destruction. All shall be rent within my pincers. All shall be trampled beneath my feet. I am Shivatron, despoiler of mirth. Hello, can you hear me? Who dares? All souls will burn. You will feel the sharp sting of my wrath. Identify yourself so that I may sing damnation upon you as you die. I'm a split-leaf philodendron, a semi-woody shrub with large glossy leaves. These leaves can grow up to 3 feet long. Attempts to wrestle with the leaves. Your mockery spells your doom. I have arrived. You will be crushed betwixt my digits. 1370 falls over and is unable to right itself. After approximately 6 minutes, it knocks the pot over, which rolls into a position that pins 1370's body to the floor of the chamber. Researchers enter to return it to its case. Okay, so it's an angry robot, and it's not actually pestering. They just got it to start calling itself that. It just can't do anything. Now it's time for the curiously buoyant amphibian, which is also safe. Axolotl! Anyway, SCP-1371 is to be kept in a glass aquarium located in a level 1 security cell at Site 18. It is to be fed a diet of 1 earthworm every 3 days. That doesn't sound like enough food. It is not to be handled physically. The object should only be moved while inside of a container. SCP-1371 appears to be a juvenile leucistic axolotl. It appears to age as a common axolotl would, although it is fairly durable and capable of withstanding moderate changes in atmosphere and contaminants that would normally harm a member of its species. It is buoyant in air, capable of swimming upwards distances of approximately 50 meters from the ground, though 1371 spends most of its time on the ground and rarely ascends higher than 1 meter. While airborne, special care should be taken not to apply physical force to it without the intent to hold it, as this may damage the object. During testing protocol, researcher Sanders attempted to patch 1371, causing it to descend and then ascend upwards at a continually increasing speed until it was retrieved. Following these observations and additional tests, it is believed that 1371, when affected by an external force that would move it downwards, generates a massive excess of buoyancy to compensate for its displacement. Incident Report A. Testing was authorized for an outdoor experiment in which 1371 would be displaced while it was in midair. A was outfitted with a tracking device before testing commenced. Researcher Breen physically removed the object from the tank. 1371 unexpectedly latched onto researcher Breen's finger. In response, Breen grasped 1371 to remove his finger, causing it to move 47 kilometers into the stratosphere in the space of 30 minutes. 1371 was returned in 16 hours, unharmed, slowly floating downward to the exact position from which it was launched. It is the opinion of those presiding over the experiment that no further testing is necessary with this object. So it sounds like it's basically just, this is an axolotl. It might bite you. It can sort of fly. Be careful. The Utter West. It's written like uttering words. It's Keter? Why? Armed Containment Site 70 is to be established on the island of somewhere, under the guise of an Uspacon naval installation constructed for the purpose of long-term joint maritime warfare training. 4 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers, DDGs, are to be maintained at ACS-70, with at least 2 patrolling Zone 1372 Alpha Sea below at all times. Owing to the nature of 1372, it is not possible to move the anomaly to a facility for containment. Okay, so that's why it's Keter, because they can't move it. Instead, the focus will be on minimizing civilian contact with it. An area extending from the anomaly to 100 kilometers east and 100 kilometers south to 100 kilometers north, and all directions, it sounds like. East and south to north. Yeah. Is to be established. Designated Zone 1372 Alpha. Sorry. Areas with similar dimensions but extents of 5 kilometers and 1 kilometer are also to be established, termed Zone 1372 Bravo and Charlie respectively. Satellite monitoring is to be maintained of the entirety of Zone 1372 Alpha at all times. If any ship is detected approaching the boundary of Alpha, radio contact is to be attempted by ACS-70 personnel. The operators to identify themselves as being a military officer, inform the ship that military exercises are taking place in the area, and advise the crew to alter their path to avoid Alpha or to exit it as soon as possible. If the ship refuses to alter their course, or radio contact is impossible, crew of the nearest DDG are to intercept and block the ship's path. The crew of the ship reaching Alpha are to be subdued, administered Class C amnestics, and airlifted to the nearest island. Any and all instances of 1 are to be engaged and scuttled at once by ACS-70 staff. Under no circumstances is any such instance to be permitted to cross the perimeter of Bravo. However, ships are not to pass the boundary of Charlie in the process. Ships that show signs of crew being affected by 1372 are to be remotely detonated and sunk. In addition, following Incident 5, no aircraft are to be permitted within Zone Charlie, including those under the control of Foundation personnel. Foundation personnel are to maintain contact with all airlines and airports servicing any area within a 200-kilometer radius of 1372, and are to advise air traffic controllers that the area indicated is in the vicinity of a UPSACOM military base and is frequently host to military training exercises that will threaten the safety of any civilian aircraft passing through them. Aircraft breaching the 200-kilometer line are to be contacted immediately and advised to alter course for their own safety. Aircraft that ignore this warning and breach the perimeter of Alpha are to be intercepted by onboard SH-60 helicopters and forced to land on the island, where they will be treated in the same manner as crews of ships breaching the area. Alright, so what is it? Description. SCP-1372 is the geodesic segment located along blankety blank blank west longitude and extending somewhere south somewhere else south. Ships crossing 1372 while traveling from west to east do not suffer any ill effects, though disposable dudes used in the tests of this nature have reported a compulsion to look west, lasting approximately 6 hours, and a strong desire to turn around and sail back. After testing, it has been determined that if a ship turns around and sails across 1372 before exiting the boundary of Alpha, no ill effects are observed beyond continuation of the aforementioned psychological effects. When a ship approaches from the east, traveling west, observers on board the ship will observe a termination of the horizon at a closer distance to their ship directly west than in any other direction. At closer range, the horizon appears to have a physical point of termination, corresponding to what observers describe as an edge of the Earth. This effect is visible from any point within Alpha. Other than cognizance of the edge and a mild curiosity as to what it looks like closer up, no psychological effects are noticed at this stage. Further approach increases the perception of the edge. Within Bravo, subjects experience a minor compulsion to continue in spite of any perceived or communicated dangers, and will resist attempts to change their course. This effect becomes more pronounced within Zone Charlie, and even after removal, subjects will attempt to build or procure a ship and continue towards 1372, regardless of time separation, and in spite of all curative attempts. A small number of subjects appear to be immune to these effects, though it is not currently understood why. Any ship that crosses 1372 will disappear from all forms of visual contact. GPS monitoring abruptly cuts off once a ship crosses completely. Observers report that the bow of the ship tips down upon crossing 1372, and that the ship appears to descend. However, a remote observation does not observe the same effects. No personnel has been successfully recovered after crossing 1372, and remote probes do not appear to function properly. Thus, the nature of the area entered by ships crossing 1372 is not yet fully understood. All that is currently known is inferred from analysis and eyewitness reports concerning instances of 1. On occasion, sailing ships will emerge from 1372. These are collectively designated as 1. Observation of these vessels has shown that the sails are tattered or missing, and engines are corroded beyond usability. In at least 5 cases, the rudder of the ship has been observed to have been destroyed, and one instance of one was found with a large hole below the waterline. It is currently unknown how instances are able to sail. To date, over 50 instances of one have been observed and contained by the Foundation, blank of which correspond to ships reported missing in the region. Is this the fucking Bermuda Triangle? Or which were observed to cross 1372 previously. When boarded, all instances of 1 were found and contained data expunged. Following Incident 1, no attempts are to be made to communicate with any entity on board an instance of 1. Note, following Incident 3, it is now apparent that the effects of 1372 extend not only to any type of sailing vessel, but also to aircraft which cross the geodesic segment. Containment procedures will be modified accordingly. No testing of any kind involving flying vehicles may be performed on 1372. Due to their heightened speed and mobility, it is highly undesirable that there be any possibility of a flying instance of 1 being created. So there's a document 1, and then another document that's considered top secret and restricted to researchers with clearance of 4 or higher. So, document 1. The following is an excerpt from the logbook of Fr, mariner serving on the ship redacted, translated from the writer's native Spanish. Okay, so it looks like this is April for them. I started to get a strange feeling today. The sea's as calm as it ever was, but feel like we shouldn't be sailing this way. The supplies are still holding out, nothing's spoiled, but can't shake this feeling that we should be sailing west, not east. Still, there's no reason to feel that way, and we've yet to find the trading passage, so I'll just keep this to myself. Turns out I'm not the only one feeling this way. There's the next day. The captain confided the same feeling in me, and when we asked around, it seems quite a few of the other sailors said the same thing. S says it's an omen and that we're likely getting close to the edge of the earth, but the captain says to sail on. Note, based on these writings, it's presumed that on the 12th of April something, the ship redacted and its companions crossed 1372. 6 days later. We've made landfall on a small island. Inhabited, though, thank God, it seems the inhabitants are friendly. They're damn good cartographers, too. They've got maps of the nearby islands for what seems to be 500 leagues east of here, but oddly enough, their maps never show anything to the west. Must be some sort of native religious taboo. Maybe they're supposed to regard this island as being the closest to their gods? We've seen plenty stranger than that on the way here. Either way, they're friendly, they've got maps of where we're heading, and most importantly, there are plenty of supplies. So, why do I still feel like we should be sailing back west? The captain ordered a turnaround today. He claims that the food supply may have been tainted. I went below to check myself, but most of it seems to have been thrown overboard already. Not that I care all that much. We've all wanted to sail back that way the past week. Horizon looks weird today, almost like it stops. Still sailing back west. Made landfall on the island from before. The chief looks like he was expecting us. The fleet is sailing on tonight. Lucky the west wind seems to be in our favor. If anyone ever finds this, do not sail west from here. All those men we scoffed at were right after all. The world is flat after all, and I've seen its edge. The captain sailed over with almost all hands on board. I and 3 others escaped attempts to restrain us and stole the ship's longboat, rowing away as fast as we could to screams of "Coward!" from the remaining hands. The ship never turned, though, and soon we watched the captain's flagship tip over the edge of the world and fall down into the gulf beyond. May God rest their souls. Rowing together, just 3 days later, we managed to make it back to the island. The chief's taking care of us while we work out what to do next with the remaining ships here. And it looks like a few days later, the flagship returned today. The captain and his men are on board. We can see them from here, and we're sailing out to meet them. A man has sailed from beyond the edge of the world and returned! What a glorious day for our nation of redacted. Next day, the captain was only after a fashion on board. The same goes for the crew. They're gone now. The flames took them. Today's mostly a blur. All I know is that the moment I heard the men on board that ship speak, I didn't want to understand their far-off words. I wanted to destroy them before they could speak again. God, help me! I helped the natives do just that. And now the flagship lies just offshore, one pristine sail still fluttering in the wind. Forgive me, Captain, but I no longer want to know what you saw beyond the edge of the earth. Looks like it's 4 months later now. After what I saw that day, I couldn't bring myself to return to the sea. The few of us that fled the ships and the longboats as they sailed blithely over the edge into whatever hell lies beyond are the only ones who remain. With the natives' help, we were able to make our way north to Asia and slip back west over land. We'll have to invent quite a story to explain how over 200 men died, but we'll think of something. We sail at dawn for the Canary Islands. Hopefully, if we come in from the east, we can convince them that we were coming from across the Atlantic. I think it's best for the peace of mind of the world if we tell them there isn't an edge. Some damn fool is bound to go looking for it, and then another ship could end up like Redacted again. Even thinking about something like that, freely sailing the seas, is reason enough to keep that place a secret. If anyone asks, we sailed around the world. First men. Quite an honor. Shame it has to be a lie, and I know lying's a sin, but none of those men in the Bible ever saw what I saw on board that dark ship. Forgive me, Lord, but the world needs this children's story, not a man's truth. Okay. Interview log. Oh, it's a whole thing. What happened? Okay. Chief L is the appointed elder of the native tribe inhabiting blank. This island is the only landmass located inside Alpha. All inhabitants are aware of the effects of 1372. While most of the inhabitants speak at least limited English, as well as a language determined to be of the Malayo-Polynesian family, a small number speak a dialect completely incomprehensible to the other inhabitants and refuse violently any attempts to teach them the common speech. Chief L in particular became violent towards Foundation personnel when an attempt was made to communicate in English. However, after several weeks of work, Dr. R, Foundation linguist and anthropologist, was able to decipher enough of the language to hold the following interview with Chief L. Thank you for speaking with us, Elder. I'm to understand you wish to contain this place. The Edge gestures out towards 1372. If that is the case, then I will need to impart you with my knowledge of this. What did you call it? An anomalous region. You aren't going to resist our efforts here? We're a simple people who have trouble enough with one ship. You are representative of an entire nation. I certainly wish for things to continue as they are, but what would resisting accomplish? You'd simply take what you desire regardless, and then you would be without my knowledge. I understand. Please tell me what you know about the anomaly. Note, term used by both parties is closer to unknown/magic/water/realm. For brevity's sake, it is translated here simply as anomaly. Our people still recall the stories of that group whose log brought you here. I pity what became of their captain. As you no doubt learned from the log, our maps do not show anything west of us. You know why that is now. Looks out to the ocean and towards 1372 again. We can all see it, Doctor. Despite that, from time to time, some of the young men band together and set out on a ship. They want to see what lies beyond the edge of the map. Aren't your people the same way, Doctor? Curiosity is one thing, but the anomaly, well... You are correct. But you did not fly in from the east. As for what lies beyond the edge, I have no more idea than you. Or rather, I don't know in the manner your people want to hear. All I can tell you is what returns. You've come into contact with the anomalous vessels, right? Vessels, then? If that is your term for the ships that return from the edge, then yes, I have seen a few. We learned very early on, Doctor, that while they look just like our own ships and our own people, they're no longer ours. Their nature is not something I understand, but whatever lies beyond the edge, that edge does not lie on this earth. Those who make contact, you saw that yourself the other day. First hand, I believe. Note, L appears to be here referring to Incident 1, which had occurred 3 days beforehand. They're made like them, part of the crew of those plague ships. A plague? Will you explain that further, Elder? We examined the men on the vessel and we opened their bodies and within found none of the things that cause the disease. Perhaps it is not a plague as you or I understand it, Doctor, but it is a plague nonetheless. I understand that, Elder. I want to understand what you mean by that word, that is all. It is not any of the kinds of diseases we know, so it must be one your people know of and we do not. It is not the kind of thing you know and that doctors treat. Unlike the disease that covers the skin in painful spots, or that brings pain and sleep upon us. We call it the Elequa. It is carried not by the sneezes, or by touching the blood of the infected like the diseases you know. It is carried in the words of the infected one, in the knowledge he brings from beyond the edge of the world. Because of this, doctors cannot treat it, for it is like corrosion. That strange disease that the sailors from the vast lands brought with them that makes the young people say there are no spirits except for one who is also 3 and who lives among the clouds. Do you understand? I believe I do, Elder. We have a different word than disease for things like corrosion and Elequa in our language, though. Sounds like he's talking about religion. You asked if I knew what lies beyond the edge. Our people tell it is the realm of Redacted, where the dead dwell. That is not an answer that satisfies a man of the great islands. And of the nature of Redacted's realm, we have no more idea than you. You surely noticed my anger at your assistant speaking in the vast island's tongue, but I cannot be allowed to comprehend that tongue. And why is that? Surely it would make speaking with the sailors who joined your tribe easier. If I knew the speech of the vast islands as those sailors and many of my people do, then I would understand the words of those who return from beyond the edge. And if I understand, then I too will become like the damned men you sent on board the vessel that returned 3 days ago. You see, I don't believe I follow, Elder. I told you, Doctor. The words of those who return from beyond the end of the world are a message from Redacted. They sing his praises eternally as they sail the sea, and they speak of what you crave to know. And any who comprehend their words will fall to the plague as well. That is why we do not know the nature of the realm where the dead dwell. Months before you came, a ship appeared from the edge whose crew spoke in the speech of the vast islands, and my people and the sailors who lived with them comprehended. They all joined the crew of that ship. It was with great difficulty indeed that we were able to destroy that plague ship. Simple comprehension passes on the contagion? Then the reason you won't learn English or the common tongue, you understand now? That is why my people use fire against it, as that logbook you found surely tells. If I am to trust you with safeguarding the edge, then you must understand that. It is a plague, and it cannot be allowed to leave these waters. When it was just my people and their simple longboats, it was easy. Even when that man's entire fleet emerged one by one, we somehow managed to subdue each ship in turn. But now, you have machines that fly through the air and ships that dwarf the mighty sharks of the deep. And out in the open air of our world, I am far from sure your foundation can contain or protect what the plague ships carry. That's what we do, Elder. That is what you desire to do, Doctor. I entrust this island to your keeping, and I entrust the edge to you to guard. Fail, and the plague ships will come. Do not betray us. Following this interview, all inhabitants were relocated to an uninhabited atoll in the Marshall Islands and underwent memory restructuring to remove all memories of 1372 and their residents on the island. All remaining documentation regarding the island in 1372 has been classified by Order of O5 Command with the exception of Document 1. Researchers with classified access to 1372 or higher may view these documents with permission of at least one O5 member. Obviously, I did not get permission for it. So, next up is laser shark fetuses. So I guess the reason it's called the utter West, like uttering words, is they go into what is apparently the land of the dead, become religiously linked to whatever they found there, and if they get a chance to tell you about it, then you just also become religiously linked, and then I guess the world ends. Like many things, but I do appreciate the fact that instead of it being someone who just like, okay, Foundation, you go ahead and do what you're going to do and wipe my memories of it, it was, if you guys mess this up, the world will end. Be careful. And the Foundation said, all right, okay, cool. We're hearing you. We're picking up what you're putting down. We'll be careful. Nobody is ever allowed to know about this. But the Foundation is stupid, and so there's probably tales somewhere about how they fucked that up. So, SCP-1373 is Euclid, and it's got some pieces. Special containment procedures. 1373A, B, and 1 through 6 are to be stored in standard refrigerated containment for biological specimens. Requests for tissue samples from 1 through 6 must be made in writing to the current head researcher of 1373. All researchers with level 2 clearance or above are allowed to access A and B, which are not presently considered anomalous except by association. 7 through 16 are not currently contained. Mobile Task Force Theta 5, the bigger boat, is assigned to locate and capture these entities before they achieve sexual maturity and begin reproducing. All surface and subsurface vessels in the area are to be tracked and periodically examined for unusual hull damage. Description: SCP-1373 1 through 6 are the carcasses of 6 newborn albino dusky sharks. Carcharhinus obscurus, recovered from the womb of a pregnant dusky shark, A, caught off the coast of California at some point in 2011. The mother shark was acquired by the Foundation upon request or reports that its pectoral fin bore a luminescent tattoo reading "Property of Dr. Wondertainment." A necropsy revealed the presence of 1 through 6, which were judged to be capable of surviving and were delivered live by cesarean section. 1 through 6 are afflicted with cyclopic holoprosencephaly. Manipulation of each organism's dorsal fin caused the eye to emit laser light at a wavelength of something nm. Experimentation revealed that the intensity of the laser can be adjusted with pressure on the fin, peaking at a maximum output of something 1,000 watts with something newtons of force applied. This is sufficient to burn through metal at close ranges of 50 to 100 centimeters. In the case of 1, this resulted in the cooking of the organism's rudimentary brain, causing its immediate death. 2 burnt to death after igniting the sclera of its own eye. 3 and 4 were sliced apart by 5's laser when 5 experienced a brainstem seizure, causing it to convulse spasmodically before dying, and 6 had a heart malformation. The mechanism by which 1373 generates laser light is not fully understood. It is believed to use redacted as a gain medium. Each organism's single eye was incapable of sight, instead of being filled with a large amount of laser cells containing redacted. However, whether the cyclopia is an intentional modification or merely incidental is as of yet undetermined. As is typical with organisms afflicted by that, the majority of the brain is absent. However, data expunged, possibly intended as a replacement. 7 through 16 are the offspring of B, a pregnant dusky shark captured on something 2011, approximately 160 kilometers east from the capture point of A. When B was brought onto the deck of the civilian fishing vessel blank blank, the cruise ship noticed weird lights coming from the shark's thoracic area. The precise sequence of events that followed is unclear. However, 3 crew members were sliced to death by lasers and another 5 were blinded. Subsequent examination of the carcass of B indicated that it had been sliced open by lasers from the inside and revealed traces of no less than 9 placental yolk sacs. A note was found inside the womb of B with severe laser damage. Refer to document HG41 for details. Document damage. Hours of fun and laughter. These little fellows can damage even your school lunches. Damaged. Warning. Changing batteries requires adult damaged. Dang it, Dr. Wondertainment. But was this the first Dr. Wondertainment or the second Dr. Wondertainment? Because I don't think the first Dr. Wondertainment would have done this to live sharks, but the second one might. Although it could have been something that the first Wondertainment did after he escaped the factory. So who knows? And that brings us to preparation, but not H. It's But why though? The entirety of this documentation of 1374 is to be kept within Site 23 until further notice. Site 53, 95, and 15 are all currently infected with 1374. All personnel working at these facilities should have been made aware of 1374. Furthermore, all documents at these areas must be triple-checked by at least 2 different personnel for inaccuracies. Additionally, personnel may wish to request a transfer out of these sites. These requests must be approved by at least 3 researchers with level 4 clearance as well as the site director of the area. SCP-1374 is a text-based phenomenon that appears to specifically affect at least 5 structures used for human interaction with anomalies at any given time. Within these affected buildings, persons that have worked with an anomalous object as defined by Foundation Protocol 1 Black for a period of time greater than 1 year will randomly encounter 1374 within the structure. It will manifest as short sentences or phrases and will appear through a variety of media, including spray paint on walls, handwritten notes, and inserted sentences in official reports. The phenomenon only affects buildings that actively interact with anomalous objects. If a structure infected with 1374 becomes inactive or ceases work with anomalies for time periods of greater than 10 days, it will no longer affect that building and will begin manifesting in a different active site. Research shows that once 1374 stops manifesting within a structure and transfers to a separate place, it will not manifest in previously infected areas even if they become active again. Furthermore, the nature and tone of the messages appears to vary widely between structures. Due to this, it is currently speculated that 5 iterations of 1374, hereby designated A through E, are responsible for these infections. Additionally, each iteration appears to favor a specific something of interest, and will reappear in a different structure used by the group of interest, if an infected building becomes inactive. See Addendum Alpha for greater detail. And there it is. What was that? 3 out of the 5 sites known to be infected with 1374 are controlled by the Foundation. The other 2 were under the jurisdiction of Global Occult Coalition and Marshall Carter and Dark. Okay, so A, controlled by the Foundation. Manifested writings are harshly critical and frustrated towards Foundation personnel and procedures. Taken from the documentation of SCP Blank, it is to be kept in Humanoid Containment Chamber 423 at all times, because that's obviously the smart thing to do, right? Make it angry at you? God, why isn't everyone dead yet due to your buffoonery? Okay, B. Manifested are supportive and encouraging towards Foundation's efforts at Site 95. Taken from the documentation of Incident Report Rho Omega, was killed under recovery of the object, but this doesn't mean we should stop trying. People live, people die, but that's okay. It's all for the greater good. John, trust me, don't let this scare you. You'll be fine. Site C, Sector 15, manifested writings are malicious, vindictive, and condescending. Taken from the documentation of 96. Weekly checks for any cracks or holes are mandatory. There's to be absolutely no video surveillance or optical tools of any kind inside 96 cell. As such, personnel must physically enter into the entity's cell at least 1 time per week in order to check that 96 remains in containment. D. Warehouse 24, controlled by Marshall Carter and Dark, manifested writings are highly critical of extravagant and wasteful lifestyles. Taken from the documentation of Redacted, which will satiate your needs without making you go out of your way to help anyone else. What a wonderful product for a horrible person. Master Marshall would surely cordially invite you to purchase this item just to give it away to someone more deserving, but you wouldn't do that, would you? And E, Redacted, controlled by Global Coalition, unknown. Gamma. Every 5 years, on December the 31st, all iterations will manifest the following message to all eligible subjects within the infected sites. You can't let a little talk distract you. You have the fate of the world in your hands. Don't let it get to your head, whatever it is, because you know what? If you can't handle this, you shouldn't be here. Just remember, this is a test. Only a test. Incident Log Theta. On April the 6th, 1995, this object was used as an example of A's messages. SCP Blank breached containment after displaying previously unknown anomalous properties, including Redacted, resulting in the transformation of 63 personnel into instances of G, along with the loss of 71 SCP objects. Currently, all objects and personnel lost during the breach are still outside of Foundation control. Additionally, Site 95's Euclid Wing 17 experienced a security systems failure, resulting in the release of 7 Euclid-class anomalous objects, one of which had been classified as a Type Red metamorphic replicating entity. 4 have since been recaptured, but the aforementioned entity breached containment and it currently is at large. Theta 24, or MTF Theta 24, Polygraph Team Attack, has been dispatched to investigate and capture all possible instances of the escaped objects. On the same day at Sector 15, C manifested information regarding Redacted, causing the widespread propagation of the info hazard. The following day, all sites infected with 1374, each respective iteration of X, generated the generate message manifested for all eligible personnel within each site. The following is a transcription of the messages. See? What did I tell you, oafs? I swear, sometimes you could stand to learn a thing or two from these GOC meatheads, and then you didn't even handle it well. You screwed it up regardless. Really, if you can't handle a small Redacted like this, what are you going to do when the big one comes? B. Oh dear, oh dear. I'm so terribly sorry. I really thought you were ready for this. I never thought it would end up like this. It's all my fault. Don't feel bad about what happened. We'll just keep trying, and eventually I'm sure you will be more than prepared for when it comes. Keep trying. Don't be discouraged. I believe in you. But you are going to have to do better than that, sweetie. And C said you don't stand a chance. Incident XI. Foundation agents pursuing several known members of Chaos Insurgency encountered a new iteration of 1374 in an abandoned factory that the group had been using as a base of operations, which has since been designated F. The writings found at the location have been characterized as being anxious and nervous. Commonly found phrases were, "Please help us, he's coming, you can protect us," with the exception of the message found on the northernmost wall of the room housing a large generator, which read, "Go away," as shown above. Shown above? I see no pictures. Approximately 5 seconds after Foundation personnel had entered the room housing this message, the chamber walls collapsed, causing the loss of 4 agents. When personnel continued to pursue and track these individuals, they encountered events similar to the previous incident in which rooms housing certain messages collapsed after Foundation personnel entered them. Due to this, agents were unable to successfully keep up with the CIA members. Head researcher note: due to the events described in Theta and incidents key, it appears possible that 1374 has anomalous control of the structures in which it is located outside of the manifestation of textual anomalies. Located outside of. The extent of this control is unknown. As such, personnel are to maintain extreme caution while operating in locations known to be infected with 1374. And that was head researcher Leonard Lagrange. Incident Chi. On May 12, 1995, Foundation surveillance reported that Warehouse 24, owned by Marshall Carter and Dark Limited, and infected with D, was vacated by the group. Foundation agents covertly followed the members of the group to MC and D-owned Auction House 53. Investigation of Warehouse 24 revealed the corpses of 3 persons, with each body having the phrase, "Those with no heart cannot truly bask in the power when he comes. I've tried talking to you, but apparently that's not enough," cut into various areas of their skin. MTF Tau 9 upper class spy cats is currently searching for the new location of D. Addendum Mu. Personnel have noticed that A through C's messages have taken on a frantic, nervous quality since blank 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 on the same date as redacted. Specifically, A has begun issuing harsher criticism of the containment procedures of an unprecedented number of SCP objects, most of which were humanoid, metamorphic, memory-affecting, adaptive, cognito-hazardous, or extra-dimensional, as well as writing out all of its messages in capitalized letters. B began utilizing the ability it demonstrated during Theta at least once per week, manifesting various forms of encouraging phrases while personnel attempted to recontain the objects. Since the incident, Site-95 has been gradually transporting its contained objects to other sites, as well as increasing the number of personnel assigned to site security. However, at no time are less than 25 anomalous objects to be held within Site-95. C ceased altering documents in overt and obvious ways. Instead, it has begun altering minute but important details about these objects. Additionally, it has been noted to include an increasing amount of subtle memetic and informational hazards in its messages. As such, the rigor of the checking of the validity of all documents within Sector 15 has been increased. These behaviors became more and more frequent over time. During this period, Foundation researchers proposed a possible link between the increased and extreme actions of 1374 and the non-anomalous series of Redacted. However, no link between the two has been established. Addendum Pi. The following message manifested in all locations infected with SCP-1374 on blank blank blank. Notably, this is the same date as the disturbance in Redacted. Well, you took the test. You failed. We'll try to handle this ourselves. Subsequently, all locations previously known to be infected with 1374 ceased manifesting anomalous messages. After 30 days, 1374 was declared neutralized. Addendum Omega. On blank blank blank, 5 months after 1374 was declared neutralized, it remanifested in all previously infected areas. However, a new iteration of the anomaly appeared rather than any recorded instances of X. This iteration is uniform across all infected areas and only manifests Arabic numerals. The numbers in the messages decrease at a constant rate over time. The significance of this is unknown, however, all manifested numbers are roughly equal between the structures at any given time. Okay, so something is coming, and there's a countdown, but unless this ends up having its own story, it looks like that's just never going to matter, like ever. So, that's going to do it for this episode of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the next episode, we'll be checking out Extraterrestrial Tube Station, Documentary Camcorder, Automaton Parliament, A Trip to the Mall, and Stab Your Inner Child. And I do want to reiterate that once we finish out the 1300s, even though it's taking longer than it has any right to be taking, once I finish the 1300s, I'm going to start doing the thing someone recommended of just having each episode be a single SCP. I don't know what that's going to do to the length of the episodes. They'll probably all just be either really, really quick or normal, I guess, because this one's 45 minutes, so I guess reading everything from there on one episode at a time. Who knows? So, if you like this video, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you need to do either one of those things. If you want to click the bell, you can do that as well so that you're notified of future uploads. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Later.